and always to you are King. Bless and let there be love in our home, the marriage experience ordained by you alone. Marriage experience. The marriage experience ordained by you alone.
Welcome to the Marriage Experience program with Ayakule and Bosade Santos, where they explore what it means to cultivate a God-centric marriage by delivering realistic and biblical wisdom, pointers, and insights from couples and individuals on the marriage journey. Join them today as they share some insights. Enjoy.
Hello and a warm welcome to the Marriage Experience program. We are so delighted you're joining us again today.
Oh, we truly are. And if you're with us last week, we continued our conversation about the different seasons of marriage. We talked about the seasons that stretched us, the seasons that shape us, and also talked about the season that, look, if we're honest, we sometimes don't even appreciate until we look back.
And one thing that stayed with me from that conversation was how much marriage is affected by the season of life we're in. Because the truth is, life doesn't stand still just because we got married.
Absolutely. Of course, jobs change, children come along, responsibilities grow, people take on more. And before you know it, you look at your spouse and you think, when did our lives become this busy?
Absolutely.
And that's exactly where today's conversation begins. Because sometimes the challenge in marriage isn't that two people don't love each other. It's that life becomes so full that they slowly stop sharing the same moments. Today, we're talking about something that many couples experience, but perhaps don't always have words for. And that's under one roof, worlds apart.
I mean, that feeling where you are physically in the same home, more or less in the same space,
yeah.
but somehow your days are happening separately. And, I want to say this right at the beginning. We're not talking about couples who don't care. We're talking about couples who care deeply, people who they're working hard, they're providing, building, serving. They're raising families and doing everything they believe they're supposed to do. But distance doesn't happen because someone stopped loving. Sometimes it happens because everyone is just tired.
That's interesting. And that's an important distinction you just brought up, because when people hear the phrase emotional distance, they sometimes imagine something exaggerated, like a huge argument that came as a result of major betrayal or a relationship falling apart. Though sometimes it looks much quieter. Now, like two people who are constantly coordinating life, but then they rarely share life. And, that is quite powerful, because there's a difference between knowing someone's timetable and knowing someone's heart. Once again, welcome to today's program. Don't go anywhere. We'll dive straight into our episode right after this quick break.
You're listening to the Marriage Experience program with Ayakule and Bosade Santos.
Hope you have your drink, you're seated at the table. Let's continue with the conversation. So before the break, we brought up the fact that there's a difference between knowing someone's timetable and knowing their heart. You may recognize this picture. You've got a meeting at 3, you need to pick someone up, you're working on Saturday, but do you know this is another scenario of conversations that could be had? You've been carrying something heavy this week and you've been worried about something, or you've been excited about something. And sometimes we don't know because we don't care. We don't know because we haven't had the space or rather, sorry, not that we don't know because we don't care, but we don't know because we've not had the space. And the thing is, life has a way of filling every available space. It really does. You can have a calendar that looks like it needs its own assistant, and sometimes marriage gets whatever is left after everything else has had its turn.
Yeah, and it's interesting you said that that marriage is perhaps taken for granted to a very large degree. Because no one wakes up and decides today I'm going to neglect my marriage. It happens gradually. One busy week becomes a busy month becomes a season, and then suddenly you realize that you haven't really checked in with each other beyond the standard everyday logistics. Now, I think many couples would recognize that the conversations are happening, but the practical conversations, that have been happening, who's cooking, who's collecting, what time are you home, those standard things about paying bills, sending emails, etc. These are important conversations. These are necessary conversations. But marriage needs more than information exchange. It needs a connection. It needs a connection.
And maybe that's the point that we want to look at for today. Not are we busy, because most people are, most people are, but the point here is, in the middle of all this life that we're building, are we still finding our way back to each other? This question has been coming up several weeks now. Are we still finding our way back to each other? Because the goal isn't to have a perfect schedule. Some seasons are genuinely demanding, and the goal is to make sure that even when life is easy, our hearts are not living separate lives. And that's what we're exploring today, because it's important that we are not just housemates or bedmates, but we are actually into each other, exploring what each person is going through. And we want to look at how we recognize when we've started to drift, and how what we can do to intentionally create moments where we meet each other again.
I don't think emotional distance usually starts with a big decision. I think it starts with good intentions. So, like someone gets offered a promotion, which is a good thing. Another decides to study part-time, which is a good thing. Children need lifting from activity to one activity to the other. That's also a good thing. None of these things are bad, but most of them are acts of responsibility, because sometimes what pulls a couple apart isn't selfishness. Interestingly, it's duty.
Exactly.
Duty as a parent, as a spouse, and that is the truth, and that's very interesting as well.
You're doing what needs to be done. Providing, caring, keeping things afloat. These are necessary things, and because those things matter, you tell yourselves it's just for now. But then, just for now quietly becomes the way life works. I actually remember hearing about a gentleman who worked permanent night for years. He said his wife and himself used to joke they were running a relay race, and one came in as the other went out. It stayed with me because he wasn't complaining. He was simply describing their reality. And he said they loved each other. They just kept missing each other.
And I imagine there are listeners thinking, well, that's us. Maybe it's not about night shifts alone. Maybe, one of you lives before the other wakes up, or one person works from home while the other constantly travels, or weekends have become the busiest part of our week. Or you're both in professions that ask a lot of you, like the healthcare profession, emergency services, hospitality, transportation, teaching. Now, all these, even ministry, all these professions are not standard. Yeah, they're not standard 8 to 5. And there's seasons when your work doesn't end neatly at 5 o'clock. because it's not a standard 8 to 5 job.
And let's not forget the mental side of work. You can leave the office and still be carrying the office.
True, very true.
Your body is at home, but your mind is still replaying the meeting. You're solving tomorrow's problem, or you're wondering how you're going to hit the next deadline, and your spouse feels it. Not because you're doing anything wrong, they just know you're somewhere else. And I think that's one of the challenge of modern life. We're reachable all the time. A message comes in after dinner. You think, I'll just reply quickly. And then another one follows. Before you know it, 20 minutes have disappeared.
And 20 minutes doesn't sound like that much, does it? I guess what, until you realize, those little interruptions happen every single evening. Connection isn't usually lost in one dramatic moment. It's chipped away in small moments that never seemed important at that time. And then couples become incredibly efficient, almost like a well-run operations team. You've got the school runs pinned, you've got the shopping nailed. You talk about don't forgetting mom's appointment or stuff like that. Honestly, if someone listened in, they think these two have got life completely organized, and they may well have, but then organization isn't the same as connection.
You're listening to the Marriage Experience program with Ayakole and Bosade Santos.
Exactly. Organization isn't the same as connection. You can be excellent partners in running a household while quietly becoming strangers in one another's inner world. And that is actually a sobering thought, because marriages don't only need teamwork, they need friendship. Friendship. And what friendship asks, are different questions. Then friendship is not asking what's next on the list, but it's asking, how are you really? And what's been on your mind this week? What made you laugh today? What's been difficult? And sometimes the answer comes slowly, not because people don't want to talk, because they've become so used to talking about everything else.
I wonder if that's why some couples suddenly feel disconnected after years together. Nothing terrible has happened. They just simply become experts at managing life, and they've forgotten to stay curious about each other.
I like that word curious, because curiosity says there's still more to know about you, even after 20, 30, 40 years.
It doesn't kill the cat in this case, though.
No, people keep growing. New pressures shape them. Experiences change us as individuals, and new joys actually soften us. If we're not paying attention, we can end up living beside someone who's changing without noticing how they're changing.
And that's really the heart of what today's conversation is about. Being under one roof doesn't then automatically mean we're sharing life together. Sometimes we have to make the choice to step out of routine long enough to find each other again. So how do you then know when this is happening? Not in anybody else's mind, but in your own. What are the quiet signs, would you say, that tells us we've started drifting?
Actually, I don't think it's always obvious. That's why it's called a drift. And if you ask most couples, are you disconnected? I suspect that many, would say, of course we're not. We're just busy. And sometimes they're right. But busy and disconnected, yeah, they're not the same thing. But then you think busy couples still find each other. Disconnected couples keep missing each other. And that's where the difference is, because I've known seasons where we'd have hardly any time together, but when we did, it felt like we picked the conversation up exactly where we left it. And then there are other seasons where you've technically been in the same house every day, but somehow you haven't really met.
Met. And that's a lovely word, because we're not talking about physically crossing paths, that's physically meeting. We're talking now about really encountering each other. You can tell when your spouse is tired. You can tell when they're they have a deadline to meet for the next day. But somewhere along the line, you've stopped asking questions. How are you carrying all of this? And I wonder if one of the signs is that curiosity starts fading. There's less of a desire to know. When you're first together, you're endlessly interested in each other. You ask about everything. You just want to know what's going on in each other's lives. But later on, you can begin assuming you already know, because you feel there's less and less and less to learn. And assumptions are funny things.
Absolutely.
They're often based on yesterday, but the person you're married to is living today.
I like that.
And the person is going to change tomorrow.
As assumptions are based on yesterday, what you knew of them, in a particular time frame. But people are not photographs. They keep changing. The person who's sitting opposite you today has had experiences you haven't fully seen, and they've had pressures that you may not completely understand. They've been growing while you've also been growing. And I remember someone saying that we realized we'd become very good at updating each other, but not very good at understanding each other. And that also was something that stayed with me.
Understanding and updating. Understanding shows, again, that word curiosity. It also shows a willingness to update information you have about the person. That willingness to understand, and it takes time. And information is efficient, yes. Understanding is relational. That's a big difference. I can hear it in the questions couple ask. What time are you going to get home?
That's just information.
That's information. Perfectly reasonable request for information. But compare that with something like, how did that conversation you've been worrying about go? Now, one keeps the day moving, and the other says, actually, I've been thinking about you. And that's such a simple difference, isn't it? Neither question is wrong, but one reaches a little deeper. And I also think laughter tells you something. Laughter in conversation tells one a lot.
You're listening to the Marriage Experience program with Ayakole and Bosade Santos.
Laughter tells a lot, not because every marriage should be full of jokes, but come to think about it, as a couple, when was the last time, I mean, this is just putting it out there, when was the last time you laughed together over something that had nothing to do with maybe a TV program or even a video that you're watching, maybe someone sent on WhatsApp or something like that? When was the last time that you just laughed? That might be a surprisingly searching question, for people who are listening, and even for us, because shared laughter usually means you've slowed down enough to notice each other. It's hard to laugh together when you're permanently rushing in opposite directions. And silence, perhaps, is also another sign.
Yeah, and just worthy to note here that silence isn't always a problem, though, because some of the most comfortable moments in marriage are the quiet ones. But I'm actually talking about a different type of silence, and silence where you keep thinking. I'll tell them later. When you have something in mind and your mind go and you think, oh well, I'll just let them know later, and then later never comes. The little stories disappear first. The funny thing that happened on the train, or the colleague who made you smile, or the conversation that got you thinking, none of them feels important enough to interrupt the routine at that point in time, but they are very important.
And then one day you just suddenly realize that those little stories were actually how you stayed connected. They were invitations, and they were tiny windows into each other's day. And I suppose what we're saying is this: disconnection isn't always about what couples stop feeling. Sometimes it's about what they stop sharing. And this is the heart of what we're talking about. We're talking about making sure that friendship stays in your marriage, because when life is demanding, we naturally protect our energy. I know that we've said this almost verbatim in previous episodes, and the challenge is making sure we don't accidentally protect ourselves from each other. And that's worth us, just sitting with for a moment to think about it. That, am I protecting myself from my spouse because energy is being rationed?
That's very true. And the encouraging thing is this. Now, if distance often grows through small moments that are missed, then closeness can grow through small moments that are reclaimed.
Precisely.
And because it means couples don't have to wait for a 2-week holiday or the perfect season. Sometimes connection just begins with one unhurried conversation, I should say. One cup of tea without the phones in front of your eyes, or one genuine question, one decision to be fully present. And perhaps that's where we go next. Not how to overhaul your marriage, but how to gently make room for each other again, even in a full life that you now have.
So we've talked about how couples can slowly drift, not because they don't love each other or because something noticeable has happened, but because life has become very full. And I think that's where the conversation needs to become practical, because most couples listening today, you're not going to say we just need to clear our calendars and start again. Life doesn't always work like that.
Exactly. Some seasons genuinely are demanding, which is true. Some people listening are working shifts. Some are caring for children, some are caring for parents, or are building businesses, or are just simply trying to get through a particular intense season. So perhaps the question isn't how do we create a perfect life where connection is easy, but how do we protect connection where life is not easy?
I like that.
Because here the focus is on the connection and not just protecting but enhancing it as well. And think of one of the first things that I think is recognizing that connection doesn't always need a grand occasion. It doesn't always need to be something spectacular. Connection could be just meeting over a cup of tea.
Absolutely. Now, there's one question I'd like us to consider, and that's what is the one thing that you can do tonight to show your spouse that you know them, they're safely known, and they're deeply loved and completely appreciated in the marriage that you have right now?
Wow, that's so true. Sometimes we imagine reconnecting requires something elaborate. We talked about a weekend away, special dinner, or a big conversation where everything gets resolved. And sometimes those things are wonderful. Yes, true. But sometimes connection starts much smaller. And I would dare say, perhaps even most of the time. Sometimes it's sitting down.
It's like, just one person laying their head on the other's knees. Yeah.
Sometimes it's sitting down for 10 minutes and asking a question that you haven't asked in a long time. Not, did you remember to send that email, or did you remember to clear out the trash? No. It's not also something like, what time are you leaving tomorrow? But how are you really doing? How are you really doing? And then being willing to stay long enough for the real answer to come through. sometimes we ask questions, but we're already moving on. We ask the questions because we're so used to asking these questions that are
It's
based
just a matter
upon
of formality.
correct. So yeah, we want to hang around long enough and encourage a true answer from our spouses.
You're listening to the Marriage Experience program with Ayakole and Bosade Santos.
Absolutely. Questions like, how was your day? But before they answer properly, you're already checking something else or preparing dinner, replying to a message, or, so the question becomes almost like a greeting rather than an invitation. And connection requires presence, not just proximity. You may be beside somebody, but not with them because your mind is in 1,001 other places. And, couples sometimes underestimate the power of small traditions. And that's not because every couple needs some elaborate routine, but small things create moments where you naturally meet. It could be a morning coffee together, a walk after dinner, or a Sunday conversation, a few minutes sitting together before going to sleep.
And guess what? Those moments can look insignificant, but over time they become places where a marriage breathes. Because when everything becomes about function, the relationship can start to feel like just another responsibility, something else, just another bullet point to tick off. But marriage was never meant to be just another responsibility on the list. And this is where Ephesians 5 gives us something important, because Paul talks about the different ways husbands and wives are called to love and honor each other. He begins with something that applies to both: submit to one another out of reverence for Christ.
And which is really about a posture of care, a willingness to say that your world matters to me and you or your needs matter to me as well. And, it's you saying, I don't want to simply live alongside you. I want to walk with you. I want to actually be there for you. What's that song? You've got a friend in me, there's several songs like that just actually talk about you being there, and that changes the way we approach marriage, because sometimes we wait for our spouse to notice our world, but love often begins by choosing to notice theirs.
And I think about how easy it is to ask a question like, why don't we spend more time with each other? It's easy to ask those questions. But then perhaps a better question to ask is, how can I bring more of myself into the moment that we do have?
And you don't even necessarily have to ask that physically of your
True.
partner,
It
but
starts
ask
from
of
within.
yourself.
Yes.
Ask of yourself, and you be creative by making those moments happen.
And because we've addressed this several times already, two people can have an entire evening together and still be absent. And two people can have 20 minutes together and genuinely meet each other.
That's actually very powerful, because it means that connection is not only measured by quantity, right? Because talking about the time that they spend, it's measured by the quality of attention. And the goal isn't to create a life where nothing interrupts you. The goal is to make sure that these interruptions don't become the only thing that you share. And I think there's grace in that there's grace in that kind of a situation, because many couples listening may be thinking, we've lost some of that. And the answer isn't shame. It's simply, let's begin again. Small steps, perhaps a conversation, a question, a moment of laughter, and a decision to put down whatever is competing for attention. Especially maybe as the wife, you got home, you're making dinner, and your spouse comes in. Don't just keep on cutting the vegetables whilst talking to him. lay down the knife, turn to them, and actually let your face, match
Eye
their,
contact.
make eye contact with them, and actually talk to them directly, not the back of your head, addressing them, uh, let them know that for that, few minutes that I'm actually here with you, because sometimes finding each other again doesn't begin with changing everything around us. It just begins with turning towards each other in the middle of what is already happening.
Wow. And that intention to turn towards each other is so key here. It's fundamental here, because it requires a real shift in posture. It means waking up and saying, I don't just want to manage this household alongside you. I want to know your heart.
It really does. But the truth is, when we're tired, busy, or carrying the weight of responsibilities, doing that under our own strength can feel almost impossible. We need God's help to step out of the noise, lay down our distractions, and be intentional about loving each other.
Wow. And that's exactly what this next song captures. Right now, if you're listening at home or driving together on tonight, let this worship track be a celebration of the years behind you and the grace of the season in front of you. It's an honest prayer for God to guide us, to lead us, so that we can lead, we can love, and show up well for the people who matter most to us. Here is Sanctus Real with Lead Me.
I look around and see my wonderful life, almost perfect from the outside. In picture frames, I see my beautiful wife, always smiling, but on the inside, oh, I can hear her saying, lead me with strong hands, stand up when I can't, don't leave me hungry for love, chasing dreams, but what about us? Show me you're willing to find that I'm still the love of your life.
to the Marriage Experience program with Ayakole and Bosade Santos.
Sometimes all a marriage needs is for two people to turn towards one another again. And that doesn't always begin with more time. It often begins with more intention, a real conversation, a listening ear, a shared cup of tea, as simple as that, or coffee, a walk, a prayer before the day ends. Small moments have a way of reminding us why we chose each other in the first place.
So this week, we'd like you to ask yourselves, and we're doing the same as well. Ask yourselves one simple question. Have we been sharing a home, or have we been sharing our lives? Have we been sharing a home, or have we been sharing our lives? If the answer is life has been pulling us in different directions, don't be discouraged. Awareness is often the very first step back into connection that we're seeking.
And perhaps that's where we bring this conversation home, because every couple has seasons where life is demanding. The question is not whether we'll ever become busy. The question is whether in the middle of that busyness, we'll continue choosing one another, because marriage can certainly become stale, and we're just going through the motions of living every day by ticking the box of what needs to be done every day, whereas we're not actually being a part of the life of the person that we're living in that same house, that same or home with. So it's important, and this is what we want to leave with you today. It's important that you take that time, you become conscious of being a friend to the person you're living together with, your husband, your spouse.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for the gift of marriage and for walking with us through every season. We pray for couples whose lives are full of responsibility, those who have long hours, shifting schedules, and competing demands as well. Help them to remain close, Father, even when life is busy. Teach them to notice one another, to listen well, to make room for moments of connection, and to love with patience and to love with grace. May every home represented today be a place where hearts stay connected, even when calendars are full. In Jesus' name.
Amen and amen. So as we come to the end of today's conversation, maybe this is the one thought we'd love every couple to take away. Being under one roof doesn't automatically mean you're sharing life. This is reiterating what I said earlier on, but neither does a busy season mean you've lost each other. Please continue to make room for each other and be kind to one another, and don't underestimate what God can do through small acts of love offered faithfully.
What a great time we've had together today on the Marriage Experience right here on Heartsong Live. We just want to say a big thank you to every single one of you for sharing your time with us today.
Absolutely. It's always an absolute joy. Remember, if you're catching us live, we are here every Monday evening. And if you ever miss a moment, don't worry at all. You can always catch the full replay every Wednesday.
That's right. And stick around, because there's so much more brilliant content coming your way tonight. First of all, at 8 p.m., we've got Chatty Chappies. And then it's followed by Arise with Eloho at 11 p.m.
And if you're listening to us on Wednesday, stay locked in for What's on Your Plate with Annette. And that's where she brings she shines a light on some incredible people making real positive impact in their communities. You don't want to miss that.
Now, if Heartsong Live has been a blessing to you, as it has been to us, and your family as well, we'd love to invite you to stand with us financially. You can head straight over to the station's donation page. You'll find the tab on our website. Or in the alternative, you could also visit heartsonglive.co.uk/donate. Do log on to support the ministry and keep these programs airing. Every little bit helps us to spread love and helps us to spread hope as well.
And we'd also continue to, would love to continue hearing from you. Send us your comments, thoughts, or questions by email. And perhaps you have a topic you would want us to talk about. Send that to us at mexperience@lidiosantos.com. And make sure you head over to our YouTube channel also, where you can listen to all the episodes. Subscribe to the Marriage Experience channel and hit that notification bell so that you never miss an episode or update. The YouTube handle is @Marriage Experience.
And for the easiest way to listen to us wherever you go, simply download the Heart Song Live app. It's available on both Apple Store and Google Play Store. It gives you instant access to Marriage Experience and all the fantastic station content right here at your fingertips.
Again, thank you for spending this time with us on Marriage Experience today. Until next time, don't just come home to the same house, come home to each other. God bless you, and we'll see you again next week.
Good night.
Bye.
Join Ayakule and Bosade again next week on the Marriage Experience program as they bring God's truth to help you build your marriage God's way. Till then, remember, marriage is God's idea and it is a good thing.
The marriage experience all day.